Post 1. Am I the jerk for refusing to confess to cheating after a family photo? I am the oldest daughter who grew up in a house where the laundry never stopped and the list of chores rotated only on paper. My mother liked to say we were a team. What she meant was that I was the captain when it came to everything she did not want to do. My stepfather Rick is the type of man who can make himself invisible while standing in a doorway. My younger sister Becca is the family favourite. She cries pretty and tells funny stories and has a knack for needing help the moment anyone else sits down. That is the backdrop. Now, the incident. 2 weeks ago, my Aunt Jan turned 60. It was a whole thing at the community centre. Tables with plastic runners, a cake with too much frosting, a slideshow with pictures of perms and shoulder pads. I brought my boyfriend Alex and my best friend June because June and Aunt Jan have always gotten along and June offered to help set up. June and I have been friends since freshman year of college. She is the kind of person who will show up with a label maker and make your cupboard look like a tiny library. Everything was fine until half an hour after the cake. June and I stepped outside to the parking lot because she needed air. She has panic attacks sometimes when the room gets loud. She told me it felt like the floorboards were moving and her chest was wrapped in tight plastic. I stood with her near the hedge and talked her through the breathing count we have used since we were 19. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Her hands were shaking, so I held them. At one point she pressed her forehead to mine and laughed a little because the star pin from my sweater poked her. We stayed out there for maybe 4 minutes. Then she was steady and we went back inside. The photo popped up the next morning in our family group chat. It was a weird angle from inside the building through the glass door, just blurry enough to be misleading. Me and June facing each other, hands clasped, close enough to look like a movie scene if you did not know two human beings were trying to ride out a panic attack with counting. Linda, my mother, sent the first message. It was not a question, it was, "So this is how you treat your boyfriend while he is inside with your family?" Becca chimed in with a row of shocked emojis. Aunt Jan typed, "Nora honey, please call your mother." Rick sent nothing. I tried to get ahead of it. I replied, "June had a panic attack. I stepped outside to help her breathe. That is all." Linda ignored my words and wrote, "You need to be honest. We are not stupid." She then called Alex. She did not call me first. She did not ask. She called my boyfriend and told him his girlfriend was cheating on him in the parking lot while he was inside cutting cake. Alex showed me his call log. He looked sick. He did not accuse me of anything. He said, "I know how your mum is," and he rubbed the back of his neck like he always does when he is trying to be fair in a situation that is not fair. That should have been the end of it if my family had any interest in the truth. It grew legs instead. Becca texted that I had put her wedding in jeopardy because she could not have a maid of honour who would humiliate the family. I have spent months helping her choose shoes and Preciosity candles and a band that can play her first dance song without the saxophone line she hates. She told me I was on probation until I came clean. My mother demanded that I sit down with her and Rick for a talk about fidelity and respect. She wrote that if I refused, she would feel obligated to inform Alex's mother out of concern for the integrity of the relationship. I went to their house because I thought maybe face-to-face would stop the wildfire. Linda had set up the living room like a guidance counsellor's office. Straight chairs, a box of tissues on the coffee table, her phone face down with the case perfectly aligned with the edge of a coaster. Rick hovered in the doorway until she gestured for him to sit. "Just tell the truth so we can move on," she said. "Are you seeing June behind Alex's back?" Not a question mark. It landed like a statement with a blank music note at the end. "No," I said. "June had a panic attack. I held her hands and counted with her so she would not feel like she was falling. That is what you saw." Linda folded her arms in a way that pushes her shoulders up like armor. "That is not how friends stand," she said. "I am not an idiot, Nora." I asked why she called Alex before calling me. She said she wanted to make sure he knew what kind of person he was with. Rick sat there and looked at the blank television. I asked her to stop contacting Alex's family. She said she had not reached out yet, but would if I was not willing to be honest. She used the word moral 3 times. She talked about how families are built on proper values. She reminded me of the time I lied when I was 8 about who broke a lamp. She said patterns matter. At one point, she went to the kitchen to refill her water. On the counter by the fruit bowl was a small folded flyer with a pale purple design. The title said, "Ethical Non-Monogamy Discussion Group." I did not touch it. I did not even look at it too long in case my face betrayed me. People can be in any arrangement they want. I have friends who are poly and kind and careful, and they would never weaponize the language of respect against someone for holding a friend's hand. I did not bring it up because I did not yet understand where that thread would lead. I left when Linda said I was out of the wedding until I made amends. She told me to think about what kind of example I was setting for the younger cousins. I sat in my car and texted Alex everything. He sent back, "I believe you. I am here." It helped and it did not help at the same time, because belief does not stop a rumor once my mother decides to make it the official version. Am I the jerk for refusing to sit in the living room and confess to something that did not happen? I feel like I was harsher than I meant to be when I told her I would not apologize for holding my best friend's hands while she tried to breathe. It is strange to feel guilty for using my voice after a lifetime of being told to be helpful. If I am wrong, I will apologize. If I am not wrong, then I think I need to set a line that I should have set years ago. I do not know which is scarier. Post 2. My family has decided I'm having an affair and they've taken it public. Since my last post, things have not cooled down. If anything, they've spun further out of my control, which I did not think was possible when your own mother is treating you like a scandal headline. The group chat became unusable. I muted it after the 7th message in a row that said some version of "just admit it." My sister Becca has turned it into her own stage. She posted the blurry photo again, this time with arrows and circles drawn on it in red, like one of those conspiracy boards. She wrote "evidence" underneath, as if she was unveiling something in court. My Aunt Jan tried to defend me, pointing out that June has a documented history with panic attacks, but Becca snapped back, "You're enabling her lies." It is surreal to watch your younger sister, who you once braided hair for before school dances, act like you are a criminal defendant. It would be annoying enough if it stayed in the family chat. It did not. My mother took it to Alex's family. She called his mother directly and said she was very concerned about the photo and thought Alex deserved to know the truth. Alex's mum, who has always been polite but cautious with me, texted Alex that she hoped he was okay and then told him she was praying for clarity. That word, clarity, feels like being put on a church bulletin. Alex is trying. He tells me every day he believes me. He went so far as to suggest we start couples counselling early. We had been talking about it for premarital stuff down the road. He said he doesn't want my family to wedge between us. I love him for it, but I can see the doubt flicker when he gets another call or text from my mother. It's like a little crack forming no matter how often he reassures me. Then Becca escalated by temporarily removing me as her maid of honour. She told me she couldn't have me standing next to her in photos when the family reputation is in question. She said I could earn my spot back if I chose honesty. Imagine your younger sister speaking to you like she's a manager at a retail store who's about to fire you for bad sales numbers. I went back to my parents' house again, not because I thought it would help, but because Alex begged me to try and resolve it. He doesn't like conflict, and I think he wanted to believe we could put out the fire with enough water. Instead, my mother doubled down. She gave me a lecture in the kitchen about moral integrity, while my stepdad Rick stood silently by the fridge like he was guarding it. I tried to point out that June has been part of the family for years, and that everyone knows she has health struggles. My mother ignored that and said, "People don't lean their foreheads together unless there's something intimate happening." While she was talking, I noticed something on the counter that didn't fit the morality show she was putting on. A folded pamphlet with soft purple print. The title said, "Ethical Non-Monogamy Discussion Group." I only glanced at it before she whisked it under a cookbook, but it lodged in my brain. I didn't say a word. I didn't want to give her any more fuel, but the hypocrisy of it made my teeth hurt. Later that night, I remembered another odd moment. Rick's phone screen lighting up with a calendar notification while we sat in the living room. I only caught a glimpse before he locked it, but it read, "Friday social, house rules apply." That is not exactly the language of bowling league night. Again, I said nothing. I told myself it was none of my business, but a thread was starting to form whether I wanted it to or not. Then came the final straw of the week. Becca texted me screenshots, blurry ones, of me and June from months ago at a coffee shop, laughing with our heads close together. She dug them off Facebook and cropped them like she was building a portfolio of evidence. She captioned them, "Pattern confirmed." I don't know if she realizes how unhinged she looks, or if she genuinely believes this is some heroic act of sisterhood. Meanwhile, Alex is getting quieter about it all. He's not angry, but I can see the fatigue in his face. It's one thing to believe me. It's another to weather a storm of phone calls, screenshots, and accusations when he didn't sign up for this circus. I'm terrified that eventually the sheer volume of my family's noise will wear him down. I am trying to hold steady. I tell myself that I know what happened. I know I didn't cheat. But my own family has decided I am guilty, and they are willing to tank my reputation, my relationship, and my sister's wedding to make it stick. For what? Because I held my friend's hands when she was shaking? And yet, in the back of my head, that purple pamphlet keeps flickering like a neon light. Ethical non-monogamy. Friday social. It doesn't match the sermon they've been preaching at me. I'm starting to wonder if the whole moral outrage has less to do with me and more to do with what they're hiding. Post 3, I offered total transparency. They doubled down. Since the last update, I decided that the only thing I could control was my side of the glass. I told Alex he could have my phone passcode, my laptop password, the folder of photos I keep with June from the past 5 years, everything. I handed him my phone and said he could scroll until his thumb gave out. He did for a while, sitting cross-legged on the couch with his brow pinched the way it gets when he is concentrating on a spreadsheet. He kept finding pictures of our apartment and our dinners and my niece with cake on her face. He looked relieved and a little embarrassed for needing the proof in his hands. I told him I was not offended. Wanting to see is not the same thing as wanting to accuse. He asked if we could meet June together. I said yes, of course. We met at a diner near her apartment where the waitress knows her order. June arrived in a hoodie and rested her elbows on the table like she was bracing against wind. She apologized to Alex for the mess, not because she did anything wrong, but because she hates being the match in a family bonfire. She told him about the panic attacks that come in loud rooms, the breathing count, the way her fingers go cold. She did not overshare, she did not perform. She just told the truth with her chin up. Alex listened, asked gentle questions, and by the time the waitress refilled our coffees, I could see the knot in his shoulders loosen. On the walk to the car, he said, "I wish your mother could have sat through that without making a scene. She would have heard you." It made me want to cry because that wish has been the long hallway of my life. If this were a movie, that would be the turning point. In real life, it made my family press harder. My mother called Alex's mother again and left a long voicemail about the patterns we have all seen. She sent Becca a list of dates when I had, in her opinion, behaved suspiciously, which included the time I took June to urgent care for an ear infection and the time I stayed late at work during an inventory audit. Becca took that list and made it a collage on her Instagram stories. She did not use my name, but she might as well have tattooed my initials on it. 2 cousins sent me stiff texts that said they were praying for discernment. I muted half my contact list in an hour. I tried one more time to keep the peace. I drove to my parents' house with a casserole because food is sometimes the only language we have. Linda opened the door and did not comment on the dish. She had her lecturing face on. Rick was already in the living room sitting very still. I told them Alex had access to everything and that we had met with June together. I thought maybe that would stop the train. Linda said, cheaters love transparency after they get caught, which was such a perfect circle of a sentence that I wanted to applaud. I did not. I asked her to stop contacting Alex's family and to take down the collage Becca posted. She said I was making threats and that I must be afraid of what people would find if they kept looking. While she was talking, a text preview lit up her phone on the coffee table. The name read Renee with a little heart emoji. The preview said, confirming Friday social, same house rules, check in at 9. Linda palmed the phone like a magician who just realized the card is facing the audience. I pretended not to see. She changed the subject to linens for the wedding, like we had been talking about napkin folds this whole time. The casserole sat there cooling like a prop that had missed its entrance. Later, Aunt Jan called me from her porch with the chain link creaking in the background. She told me she was tired of the group chat and she would not play referee anymore. I asked her if she believed I cheated. She said, I believe you held a friend's hands and your mother decided it was her business to decide what that meant. She hesitated, then said, your mother needs to stop throwing stones from a glass house. And then she coughed and said she had to go because her neighbor was waving at her. I asked what she meant, but she said she did not want to be in the middle and that I should focus on Alex. The call ended and I sat there with the words glass house rattling around like a coin in a dryer. That night I did what I should have done the moment I saw the purple pamphlet. I searched for the group. It was not hidden. It was a public meetup for people practicing or curious about ethical non-monogamy, with a calendar and a list of topics like boundaries, consent, and aftercare. One of the events was called Friday Social, and the description mentioned house rules and check-ins. The banner photo was taken at a wine bar a few blocks from Becca's dress boutique. My mouth went dry. It is not the existence of the group that took my breath. People can set their lives up however they like if they are kind and honest. It was the overlay with my mother's sermons on morality, the way she sat me in a straight chair to accuse me of sins, while possibly practicing an arrangement that requires more honesty than she gives to her own daughter. I did not know what to do with that information. I did not want to become the person who snoops and gossips. I do not care to out anyone. I care about my mother calling my boyfriend's mother to tell her I am unfit, while possibly writing love notes to someone who is not her husband. That would be her right if it is consensual. It is not her right to set my life on fire with the language of propriety while hiding behind a cookbook. The week slid by with Becca sending me schedules for her dress fittings that I was no longer invited to attend until this is resolved. Then she texted me early this morning to say the seamstress finished the bridesmaid wrap I had picked, and could I please swing by after work to grab a replacement shawl that needed steaming. She added, Mum and Dad are meeting a family friend for a quick drink at Ashton Wine Room. They can hand it off. The minute I read Ashton Wine Room, I had that weird feeling when puzzle pieces click into place and make a picture you did not ask to see. I texted back that I could pick up the shawl, no problem. Becca replied with thumbs up and a heart. I stared at the screen and wondered if she knows more than she lets on, or if she is simply playing her role in the family theatre, hitting her mark and saying her lines. Alex asked if I wanted him to come. I said I was just picking up fabric, it would be fine. He looked at me for a long time and said, "Text me when you get there and when you leave." It is funny how the calmest people can suddenly talk like a security team when they smell smoke. I am not going to start a scene. I am not going to accuse anyone in public. I am going to walk into a wine bar, accept a shawl, say thank you. And if I see something, I will file it under truth. I cannot make my mother apologize for what she has done to me these past 2 weeks. I can make a record of who is doing what to whom. I can decide where my chair goes in this family or if it stays at the table at all. If nothing happens, I come home with a piece of fabric and a story about overpriced wine. If something does, I will finally have an answer for the question that has been chewing the edges of my sleep. Why is my mother so frantic to brand me unfaithful? Maybe it is because the mirror in her house is too clean. Maybe it is because she cannot bear to see her own reflection in it. Tomorrow, Ashton Wine Room. I will report back. Post 4. What I saw at the wine bar. I went to Ashton Wine Room like I said I would. It's one of those places with string lights overhead and shelves of bottles displayed like trophies. I arrived 5 minutes early, ordered a soda water so I'd look like I belonged, and sat in a corner where I could see the door. I told myself this was just a handoff of a shawl and nothing more. At exactly 7:10, my parents walked in. My mum was dressed sharper than usual, navy dress, heels I hadn't seen her wear in years, lipstick that didn't smudge even when she sipped her glass of Merlot. My dad was there, but he looked more like an accessory than a partner. He ordered a beer and stared at the game on the TV above the bar while Mum checked her phone every 2 minutes. 10 minutes later, I saw her. Renee. I recognized her immediately because I'd clicked too far down the rabbit hole after seeing her name pop up on my mum's phone. She was wearing a blazer, casual but polished, and the way she lit up when she spotted my mum. It wasn't platonic. My mum stood, hugged her tightly, whispered something into her ear. Renee kissed her cheek, and they both sat down across from my dad like this was the most natural thing in the world. No family friend, no church acquaintance, just a woman my mother clearly has something with. The shawl handoff happened in under a minute. My dad pulled the fabric from a bag at his feet, handed it to me without meeting my eyes, and said, "Here." I thanked him, forced a smile, and turned to leave. But my legs wouldn't move. I froze there like a deer while my mum leaned in close to Renee, laughing, brushing her arm. My dad kept watching the TV like he'd seen this scene 100 times and decided pretending it didn't exist was easier. I finally snapped out of it and walked straight out onto the sidewalk. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd drop the shawl. Alex called the second I stepped outside. He must have been staring at his phone the whole time waiting for my update. I told him what I saw. He was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped, but then he said, "So all of this storm was just projection." I got home, laid the shawl on the table and stared at it like it was radioactive. My mum has been crucifying me for hugging a friend, for keeping photos of June, for breathing in a way she didn't approve of. Meanwhile, she's going to wine bars with her partner while my dad plays statue beside her. I don't know what to do with this yet. I don't want to hurt my dad, but I also don't want to let my mum keep smearing me as some untrustworthy cheater when she's living a double life. Part of me wants to confront her. Another part of me thinks she'll just twist it into another sermon about how I don't understand adult relationships. Alex says this is the first time he's ever seen my family's dysfunction laid bare in a way he can't argue with. He told me I don't owe anyone silence anymore. The wedding is in 2 weeks. And I can't stop thinking, if she'll lie this deeply about herself, what is she capable of saying about me when she doesn't like what she sees? Tomorrow I'll decide whether I keep this to myself or put it all on the table. Right now, I just need to breathe. Post 5, the meeting where I read my speech. I decided I was not going to have a screaming match in a kitchen. I was not going to bring up a wine bar in a flurry and watch my mother pivot into tears and alarm. I wanted a record, so I wrote it down. I typed for 2 evenings. I kept deleting sentences that sounded like revenge and replacing them with sentences that sounded like a boundary. I printed 3 copies, slid them into a manila folder, and put the folder in my tote. I texted the family chat one simple line. I asked to meet at my parents' house on Sunday at 3. No subject line, no bait. Becca replied with an eye roll emoji. Linda wrote, "Of course, we all want resolution." Rick sent a thumbs up that looked like he had put it there by accident. When I arrived, the living room was staged again. Chairs facing each other, box of tissues, coffee already poured into cups that were not my mother's everyday mugs. She wears performance like a coat. Becca perched on the arm of the couch in her rehearsal dress, pastel pink that makes her look like a meringue. Rick stood until Linda told him to sit, then folded himself into the recliner that squeaks. I did not sit right away. I placed a copy of my pages in front of each of them. Linda did not even look down. She clasped her hands and said she was pleased I was finally ready to tell the truth. She started with her script, the one about values and family name, and how Alex deserved a partner he could trust. I let her talk for a full minute. Then I said I would go first. I read from the first page. My voice was steady in that way that can sound cold when you have grown up with people who equate loud with love. I said that my goal was not to shame anyone and not to dredge through old grievances. I said my goal was clarity and safety. I said I would be using the words I, me, and my, since those are the only things I can control. I read, word for word. First, I did not cheat. I did not betray Alex. The photo that has been circulated shows me holding my friend June's hands while she coped with a panic attack. If anyone wants to know what that looks like, ask June. She does not owe anyone an explanation, but she has already given one to Alex, and that is enough for me. Second, there has been a smear campaign, calls to Alex's mother, posts that imply I am unfaithful, threats to remove me from my sister's wedding unless I confess to something I did not do. These actions are not about truth, they are about control. They stop today. Third, I do not care to police how other adults structure their relationships. Ethical non-monogamy exists. Polyamory exists. People can consent to arrangements that are not mine, and I wish them happiness and health. What I object to is hypocrisy. I object to being dragged onto a stage to be judged for touching a friend's hands, while the people judging me attend social events that require house rules and check-ins. I paused there. I did not say wine bar. I did not say Renee. I did not need to. It is interesting how silence can act like a highlighter. Linda's chin tilted. Becca's eyes sharpened. Rick's knuckles whitened on the recliner arm for one visible second. I continued. My conditions for continuing contact are simple. 1. Stop contacting Alex's family. 2. Remove every post and suggestion that frames me as a cheater. 3. Apologize to Alex. The apology does not need to be dramatic, it needs to be clear. 4. Stop monitoring my friendships for the purpose of inventing scandal. If these conditions are not met, I will be stepping back for my own sanity. I will attend the wedding as a guest if invited, and I will decline any role that puts me in a position to be managed or punished. I set the last page down. My heart was going, but the room was quiet in that pre-storm way. Linda got there first. Deny, attack, reverse roles. She said I was invading her privacy by throwing around insinuations about her personal life. She said I had probably followed her and Rick to test them, that I had become unwell with obsession, that I was trying to ruin her marriage to excuse my own behavior. She said the pamphlet I saw was for research only, that she had friends who were struggling, that she was supporting them as a good Christian neighbor supports people in crisis. The word crisis hung there like perfume. I said quietly that I had not insinuated anything. I had not said any names. I had not described any scenes. I had said only that people in our family deserved to stop pretending a blurry photo told a whole truth. I told her my conditions again. Stop contacting Alex's family, remove the posts, apologize, stop the surveillance of my life. Becca jumped in with a tremble that belongs in a school play. She said I was making everything about me when she was 2 weeks from the most important day of her life. She said brides have a right to control their circle. She said she had to protect her brand. She said, if I loved her, I would not bring harm to her wedding with my drama. She used the word drama 3 times, as if repetition could turn my paragraphs into glitter and confetti. Aunt Jan arrived late, which is how she arrives to everything. She let herself in with her spare key and stood in the hallway like she had walked into a television show. She looked at the printed pages in Linda's lap and then at me. She said she had tried to stay out of it, but she was tired. She told Linda to put down the performance and remember that the person in front of her was her daughter, not a public relations problem. Then she looked at Rick. She asked him how long he planned to sit still to keep the water flat. She said she has known about the Friday socials for a while. She said she was glad Linda and Rick had found a way to be honest with their chosen people, and she wished they would try honesty with their daughter. Rick opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. He said they had had conversations about their marriage that were private. He said those conversations did not give anyone permission to hurt Nora. He said calling Alex's mother had been an overstep. He said sorry, and he looked at me when he said it. It was the first clean thing in the room. Linda bristled. She said we were all ganging up on her. She said this was a witch hunt. She said I had ambushed her in her home. She said she had only ever tried to protect me from bad choices. She said June was a bad influence. She said she was being punished for having friends. She covered every square inch of the floor with claims of victimhood until there was nowhere left to step. I told her the apology she owed was to Alex. I said I would not be debating June's existence. I said I would not be justifying myself for breathing air outside a community centre. I repeated my conditions one more time. Stop the calls, remove the posts, apologise, stop the surveillance. Then I told Becca I would attend as a guest if she wanted me there. I would not stand in her line of bridesmaids. I would not do her hair. I would not pin her veil. I would bring a card and keep my distance. Becca let out a little sound, half laugh and half gasp. She said I was breaking her heart. She said I wanted to ruin her day. I told her I wanted her day to be her day, which is why I was removing myself from positions where she could use me as a prop or a punishment. Aunt Jan put her hand on my shoulder. She said she would walk me to the door. Rick said, wait. He asked Linda to agree to stop contacting Alex's family. He said they could at least do that. Linda stared at him like he had turned into a stranger in her chair. Then she said she would think about it. She said she would pray on it. She said she was being treated unfairly. I took my tote and stood. I told them my deadline. I said they had until Wednesday to send a clear text to both me and Alex, stating they would stop the calls and the posts, and that they would apologise. If that text did not arrive, I would step back. I would not engage. I would see them across rooms at family events and wave from a distance. I would not participate in ongoing trials where I am the only one who is not allowed to present evidence. On the porch, Aunt Jan hugged me tight. She whispered that she was sorry she had not spoken earlier. She said truth is hard for people who have built their house around a story that does not hold weight. Her chain latch clicked when she shut the door behind me. The sunlight looked like it belonged to someone else's afternoon. Alex was waiting in the car with his hands on the wheel but the engine off. He asked how it went. I said I read my speech. He asked if anyone heard me. I said Rick did. He exhaled and reached for my hand. We drove away quietly. I felt lighter, not because anything had been fixed, but because I had stopped letting other people write the captions under pictures of my life. I was braced for a Wednesday that might not bring a text. If it did not, I already knew the next line in my script. Boundaries are not punishments. They are fences that keep the garden from being trampled. I will update after the deadline. If there is silence, that will be an answer. If there is an apology, we will see if it comes with actions. Either way, the record exists now. I read it aloud in a room where I was supposed to confess. I declined the role, handed back the script, and kept my own. Post 6, final update. Wednesday came and went. No text, no apology, no acknowledgement. I wish I could say I was surprised, but I wasn't. Linda thrives on control, and silence was just her way of pretending she hadn't lost it. By ignoring me, she could tell herself she was still in charge, still holding the script, still deciding who looked guilty and who didn't. But here's the difference. I stopped playing. On Thursday morning, Becca posted a long paragraph on Instagram about keeping negative people out of your wedding and how she was surrounding herself with only positive energy. She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. Every cousin and family friend knew. Alex's mum saw it too. And this time, she called me instead of Linda. She told me she'd had enough of the phone calls and the whispers. She said she'd already told Alex that she believed me, not them. That was the closest thing to justice I'd had in months. Friday night, Aunt Jan called. She said she tried to talk to Rick again, but Linda shut it down. She said Becca was doubling down on protecting her image and would rather have a neat villain, me, than deal with the mess in her own house. Aunt Jan apologized again for not stepping in sooner. I told her she had done enough already by speaking up when it mattered most. So here's where I landed. I sent one final message in the family chat. I gave you my conditions. The deadline has passed. I will not be attending the wedding in any official capacity. I wish Becca and Ryan well, but I will not be walking into a room where I'm treated as the problem while the actual problem hides behind stage curtains. Please don't contact Alex's family again. If you do, I will take legal action. And then I muted the chat. Alex and I made other plans for the weekend of the wedding. We're going to take a short trip together, just the two of us. No staged living rooms, no accusations, no forced apologies, just us. Do I feel sad? Yes. It hurts knowing that my family would rather invent a story than face the truth. It hurts knowing my own sister would sacrifice me on the altar of her perfect day. But I also feel free. For the first time, I'm not waiting for them to approve of me or twisting myself to fit their narrative. If they ever come around with genuine accountability, not a staged sob story, not another smear campaign, but real accountability, I'll listen. But until then, I'm done auditioning for roles I never wanted. This isn't the update anyone probably wanted, but it's the truth. Sometimes you don't get reconciliation. Sometimes you get distance. And sometimes distance is the only way you can breathe. So that's my final word. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't betray anyone. The people who tried to paint me as the villain were carrying secrets of their own, and now they'll have to live with them. As for me, I'm choosing peace.